that they discussed the move g5.
Yeah,
they were looking at c5,
yes.
right? They were looking at c5. Alright, so g5, Nodirbek thought about this on the board. The typical move here, opening the queen, hitting this pawn on b2. So we see the idea for Levon, he develops his knight but behind the pawn, so this is more harmonious, stopping the threat against the pawn. Now Nodirbek played d6 to open up the bishop, I assume, and now g3. At some point you have to involve the most powerful piece in the game. Queen takes b7 as a threat. We see also the idea behind d6. Bishop c6 hitting the queen, bishop g2, and knight to b6. The knight is developed, the tension is kept for now. d3, white keeps developing, also protecting this pawn on c4, that makes a lot of sense. And now the bishops were traded, bishop takes, queen takes, and excuse me, knight c6 was the last move. Now, Levon, it's his move, and let's take a look. The bishops were traded. Well, you could actually here you could go for short castle. You could play a move like bishop d2, and let's say black does something, whatever. e6. No, you could go for short castle in this one, and would be somewhat of an English structure. At least this is what it reminds me of. So this would be one idea, or you could play quite aggressively with this move again, b4, to push this knight away, and if this knight moves, let's say if this takes here, then you can come in with the queen. Almost made it. Queen takes b7, and the active queen would be quite an issue for black. So either play calm with bishop d2 or go for b4. And I was just going to say, knowing Levon, he will play b4. Unfortunately, he played it before I could say it, so that really takes away from it. But he did do it, and I like it. Tanya.
I love it. You know, we want to see this move on the board. b4. It's something that we did allude to. If in these setups the knight comes to c6 to defend the b7 pawn, you have to watch out for these ideas. It's not even a pawn sacrifice. As Nicholas pointed out, the b7 pawn is hanging immediately if black was to recapture. Plus, you have a really nice threat. The one idea that I think Fabi and gang were talking about earlier was at some point the white knight also landing to a5 in many positions. And I think that's something that black in these structures in all the games has to watch out for. Once this knight is being kicked out and the white knight gets to the a5 square, we're looking at already really big ideas on the b7 pawn. You can defend it once, but that knight from a5 will also threaten it. I want to see b4 on the board, and I feel it's also in Levon.
match against Ding Liren, then he lost against Magnus, and now he's losing against Levon. And the chance was yesterday, really. He had a winning position, he had a winning rook game against Levon, and Levon saved himself with a beautiful stalemate defense, saved the draw. And it feels like it's a similar storyline as in the match between Levon and Vincent, where also Vincent missed a chance and then was crushed with the black pieces, and the same can be said here. You can give a check or you cannot give a check, it really doesn't make any difference. And then white is up 4 pawns, and there is no attack. The black king is completely weak immediately. Well, queen b7 is not a threat yet, but if you move the queen somewhere, that's queen e1. But it's not going to be enough. It can never be enough here. And maybe Nodirbek will play a few more moves.
Yeah, he gave
He gave a check first, he takes an h1, alright. No harm in that, but Levon will win this one.
Yes, really nice technique there. And we're seeing these moves being played out. I think we have to move over to our championship fight as the clocks are ticking low in that one. Levon just needs to finish the job. He's done everything right. He's up 4 pawn speed. I think we can conclude this one. Nodirbek needs far more than a miracle to save it. Meanwhile, some decisions on the Fabi board, and it happened. We left it at
compromise his pawn structure. Yeah, and there is the resignation by Nodirbek Abdusattorov.
Levon Aronian finishes 3rd. He is the 2nd runner-up. What a tournament it's been. Levon with a shaky start. The round robin did not go the way he wanted, but he kept his optimism. He kept his good mood going, Peter. He would join every single day in the confessional booth. And at the end of it, it all pays off as he wins a really nice match against Nodirbek. This game was a masterpiece, starting from the opening, pushing that b-pawn at the right time, getting control of that long diagonal. He never gave Nodirbek a chance. Nodirbek trying everything, opening up the h-file, getting his bishop into the game. But eventually, Levon not only kept his king safe, but went hunting for Nodirbek's king, got the job done, and goes back home with $30,000.
Yes, and if he can't together his games in the Classical, then he has won all his white games in a very convincing fashion, 3 out of 3 against very strong players. So he should be very proud of himself. And surviving always the scare with black. We talked about this, that Levon's style is such that when he gets the initiative going, he's so dangerous. It's very difficult to stop him. And when he's black, then he's due to his adventurous style, he gets into